everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. Every Friday we look at the top 5 somethings probably to do with Blood Bowl, given as that's what we do here. So normally we look at positionals and rules and things like that, but we've had a lot of you guys say we want to look at miniatures. So we are going to look at my top 5 third-party miniatures here this week. Teams, whole teams. Now I want to be really clear, these are my top 5. These are the top 5 that I love more than any other of the third-party teams that I've seen or bought or held. So there's probably going to be a ton that I've missed out, and that's okay because these are my top 5. So let's have a look at some of what I think are the best looking teams in Blood Bowl. So my number 5 is Vortice Miniatures Tomb Kings. So they did a Kickstarter, Death King's Guardians. It's written on the blooming screen there. Death King's Guardians Kickstarter. They did it last year. It should be shipping. Should be shipping soon actually, which is quite exciting. So I backed it. I actually backed this team. Makes sense that it's in my top 5. So basically, it is a slightly cartoony Khemri team, or Tomb Kings now, as we have to call them. So I'll just show off a couple of the miniatures. I've got the Kickstarter page on the screen so we can just have a look. This guy is one of the Tomb Guardians. So as you can see, size-wise, probably a little bit better than the mummies from Games Workshop. Definitely more lanky. So when I say it's got a cartoony style, you can see that it's kind of... all the guys are very animated. They have got a kind of exaggerated features, exaggerated eyes, exaggerated mouths. But if you look at the sculpting quality, it's just fantastic. I cannot wait for this team to land. But the thing that really did it for me is the skeletons. So each of these skeletons has got its own personality. And because the heads are slightly enlarged, it gives that kind of cartoony element. It really feels kind of like Blood Bowl 2nd edition for me. Like some of the highlights of the game were like the individual sculpts that were a bit larger than they should be, a bit cartoony, and actually each one of these miniatures would be a great individual player, and that's kind of what I look for. Like, this is a team of individual players that would be great fun to paint, or great fun to have as a star player. We've got the Blitzrars here. So again, just action, just detail, just the sculpting is really, really lovely. I love the Throw Ra, which is sad given that they shouldn't really be throwing an awful lot at all. But hey, that guy has surely got some sure hands. So I just love this team. I cannot wait to get it. I think I just ordered the basic team, which was €65. You can see it on the screen there, which was, what, four Tomb Guardians, 2 Blitzrars, 2 Throw-Rars, 5 Skeletons, and an absolute ton of stretch goals because it was Kickstarter. Now, Vortice will have these out for general sale when the team lands. And when it does land, I'm going to do an unboxing so I can show off, because I think these are great miniatures. Great miniatures, very stylized. The really cool thing, can we get on the screen? We can. Is that they had these like resin ghost pieces that went on the Tomb Kings, Tomb Guardians. Let's see if we can get a better shot. This is all of the extras. I think they've actually got. So this is really cool as well. Like, I love the Chainsaw Star player. They've got cool coach, and you know, Kickstarters do these kind of things. The Skeleton Star player there, which is sad because Sinbad is now gone. But although Mickey Bryce, Dwarf Mummy Star player, there's your Scroll Half-Height sorted. Skeleton Catcher, yeah, he's gone too. They got some cool stuff, but each one of these guys is really, really characterful. This is sweet. The Ramsuk, or Ramtut, I suppose that's going to be. And Setek, there you got the wizard. Come on, where is it? So, skeletons, mummies, packs of souls. They had alternate heads, which will be available, I imagine. They did a giant, which you guys know I'm very partial to. Let's have a look. I think they had actual pictures of the guys with... oh, maybe it was an update. Anyway, that is my number 5, Vortice Tomb Kings. My number 4 is the Gribo Orcs, or Gribo Black Orcs, basically. The Gribo Orc team they did as a Kickstarter, and it was really cool, but I think it landed at a time where I'd just backed another Kickstarter or something else was going on, or I thought I didn't need yet another Orc team. But this one was awesome. So I love these miniatures because they have gone with a kind of more generic... no, not generic fantasy orcs. There's kind of like 3 orcs, isn't there? There's like the Warhammer orcs, where they have very square faces. You've got the generic fantasy orcs, which are really just gnarly goblins. And then you've got the video game orcs. And this team is basically my idea of video game orcs on a Blood Bowl pitch. So think World of Warcraft and things like that. They are exaggerated. They could be used as ogres. So this is another thing I absolutely love about this team, is every single one of these miniatures would be a great individual star player, basically. I mean, look at the sculpting skills, just the level of detail, and the absolute chonk of these guys is fantastic. One thing I really, really love is that this was being worked on. A Games Workshop, kind of, the Black Orc team was spoiled. Well, these guys, Gribo, were straight on it with a booster pack of an extra 2 Black Orcs and some Goblins. I think you can buy those already, but they're not released the team yet because it's not been quite fulfilled on Kickstarter yet, which I respect as well. But look at this. The Blitzers are amazing. The Black Orc blockers are amazing. The Line Orcs are fantastic. There's got a lot of different potential. Different positions, and just the sculpting, the detail, and the absolute size of them is fantastic. And then you have the goblins. So if you're familiar with Pathfinder at all, these guys just remind me of the Pathfinder goblins, like, to no end. They're just cheeky. They're like Pathfinder, Magic the Gathering kind of goblins. They're like, it's great fun. They are just mischievous and awesome. And I think I even prefer these to the Games Workshop Black Orc goblins. I think these are awesome. And I think a Black Orc team with these guys is going to be absolutely fantastic. And I kind of regret not backing it. And if I'd known the Black Orc team was coming, I think I probably would have to get these Black Orcs, this Orc team, and these Goblins, because they are absolutely awesome. I mean, they're €7 a piece and things like that. That's kind of normal. So yeah, it's a third party and you're paying third party prices. But the miniatures are fantastic. And I've seen some Goblins painted up somewhere with red skin. Let's see if I can find any. Oh no, I don't think they're actually on the Kickstarter. I think it was like a social media post. Anyway, they've just got an absolute ton of character. I really love the sculpting. They are not... they don't fit with the Games Workshop aesthetic, because these guys are kind of what you'd see on a mobile app kind of game rather than anything else. But I absolutely love these miniatures, and I kind of regret not backing them. So yeah, number 4 for me is the Gribo Black Orcs. And my number 3 is the Norbert Miniatures Knights team. It's the Knights in particular that I absolutely love about these. So the other Kickstarters we looked at so far, the other teams are all kind of, I think €59 was what I paid for the Vortice guys, which is a smaller side of the team, and it was a Kickstarter price. You know, the Gribo will be about the same, which is about €80. When we look at third-party teams, we're expecting to pay about £75 to £80 for something that is different and normally has an angle. So the Tomb Kings one had that kind of cartoony aspect, you know. The Gribo one had that World of Warcraft, like video game goblin aspect. Then you've got something very different, and I am unabashedly in love with the work that Norbert is doing. So they did a Kickstarter for an absolute ton of Warhammer Fantasy Battle stuff, but within that they had 2 Blood Bowl teams. They had the Knights, the Bretonnian team, and they had the Empire team. So you've got the Imperial Knights here, you've got the style of the Empire, you've got some you know, some Outriders, but really I love these Knights. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I've actually held some of the pre-production Norbert miniatures, and the Knights look fantastic. I'm just so excited for the Knights themselves. The rest of the team is great. Having, you know, 14, 16 unique sculpts is awesome for a team. Like, that's just fantastic. And I think you'll agree that the majority of these miniatures look brilliant and they're well sculpted. But the Knights just knock it out of the park. And the cool thing is that in Blood Bowl 2020, you can kind of run this team. I don't care. Just going to run Knights. If you want to play, if you're kind of like a Blood Bowl 2016 traditionalist, you've got your Bretonnian team right here. If you want to run this team in Blood Bowl 2020, you've got your Imperial team here, like your Imperial Nobility team here. And the miniatures are great. The sculpting is fantastic. They're not as energetically designed, I think, as the other sculpts we've seen so far. But that's because they're football players, so they're kind of waiting, they're kind of blocking. And that's okay with me, because the team at the Kickstarter value for 16 individual plastic miniatures was €25. I'm not sure how much Norbert are going to sell them for when they've landed, let's say it's £30. Let's say it's £30 for an alternative team with awesome knight miniatures and a bunch of cool individual linemen. For £30, for £25, for £30, 16 individual plastic miniatures. That is fantastic. I'm not saying that price swings everything, but as a package, it's an investment to pay £80 for a Blood Bowl team. You know, it's the kind of thing you do once or twice a year when something really special comes around. £30 for a team is the kind of thing you can do every other month and just build your collection. Enjoy painting some wicked miniatures. Now, each one of these knights are cool, and the one I've seen is just, oh man, I just want a whole flipping team of them. And I can get one now for £25. So Norbert will be landing in the next few months, and then they'll be out for general sale, and hopefully they're going to brew up some more Blood Bowl stuff. They've got some stuff on the Kickstarter they're still working through, like the ogres and the star players. Can I show you the star players quick? I don't know. Does that count? It probably doesn't count, but I'm going to do it anyway, because the star players are absolutely awesome for these guys. Let's see. I'll just show you one. We'll just find one. Wow, they had a ton of stuff on this Kickstarter. So they're not the same scale as the Warhammer stuff. They have scaled them up. They work with us, actually, to advise them on the size of heads, size of feet, size of miniatures. So you know that when they land, they are going to be suitable for Blood Bowl, and they are going to be awesome. So I'm super excited. They did a bunch of cool characters. Where's the this guy is just, I just cannot wait to get hold of this guy for Blood Bowl. Let's zoom out ever so slightly, because I want to show that guy off, because it's one of my favourite miniatures from the entire Kickstarter. Where are you? There's some spiders. That guy's pretty cool as well. There's just so much cool stuff coming, and the price for these guys is fantastic. So I just love it. I love the Norbert Knights, and I cannot wait to see where they go from here. And my number 2 team is the Punger Vampires. So it's another Kickstarter. And Punger, like straight up Punger do fantastic. Oh, Limanek. There goes one of my miniatures. Fantastic miniatures. I've got one of the Pirates team here. Their Hack Phlegm, basically. I printed that. Quite happy. Absolutely awesome. Punger do some great stuff. You can tell from their sculpting that they do some absolutely great stuff. You can tell from the detail on these files. But the Vampire Buccaneers team is just one of the most excitingly individual sculpted teams, I think, in Blood Bowl ever in the history of the world. Each of these sculpts is individually fantastic. They've got so much character. And the coolest thing about this is that, like I said, every one of them, you can use it for multiple things. So you've got a bunch of humans here that you can just use for example, a human nobility lineman team. You've got your Fend guys. If you want your nobility team to be piratey, you've got linemen. Every single one of these players is an individual, beautiful painting project. But look at the vampires themselves. So as a team, it is cohesive, but each individual player is beautifully unique and does a great job. These guys have even got blooming bats flying off them. So I know that when we previewed this, we gushed about it. And this was part of a Kickstarter that also had Necromantic and Tomb Kings in as well. But individually sculpted teams, I just absolutely love this. Now, I didn't go for this because I just backed the Death Kings one, and it finished before this one had landed. It was very awkward. So I'd already backed that, and I was like, well, that's going to be fine. Like, Punger's great, but I've got this cool kit. I don't want a vampire team just now. Which is lucky, given the absolute beating they've taken when it comes to transferring them over to 2020. Vampires have got borderline unplayable, bless their hearts. But you can see that this team, oh man, it was up on the list. It was just the team in a nutshell. A bunch of individual, brilliant, beautiful vampires. You got all kinds of genders, all kinds of styles. I just thought it was an absolutely awesome team. It is a painful one that vampires are not overly playable, but there's lots of different rosters you can use them for. So you've got vampires who can be your blitzers for a human team, and you've got these guys as linemen. This team here would not make a terrible nobility team with these guys being bodyguards, and then you just have to get a couple of catchers and a couple of throwers. Or, you know, I don't know. There's just so much you can do with it. I love Punger miniatures, and this vampire team is just one of the most beautifully sculpted things I have ever seen. And I know that they don't look like nothing about it is absolutely spectacular. But it's because each of them has got multiple uses. Each of them has been sculpted individually and brilliantly. And as a cohesive team, that's just awesome. I absolutely love this team. And my number one third-party team is a team that I've actually got, and you can go out and actually buy right now, and it's for a team that we take the mick out of all of the time. We bully dwarf players. Not really, but you know, we feel like there's a bit of work they need to do. But you know what, if you run a dwarf team, you have to kind of work in a lot of ways to score a lot. Dwarfs, it's the Fanath dwarf team for me. So let's scroll down. This is the Kickstarter, because this is the first Blood Bowl Kickstarter I backed, and it was the most exciting one I've ever received, and it was something I saw the spoilers of early on and was just absolutely chomping at the bit to get it ordered and to get it here, and it is now here. So I am painting up my Fanath dwarfs at the moment. You would have seen that on Whip Wednesday a couple of times. I got distracted by the Blood Bowl 2020 stuff, but Fanath Dwarfs. So I started in playing Blood Bowl in the early 90s, mid 90s, I guess, and it was with the second edition stuff. And it was the second edition Dwarves from Dungeon Bowl, which was Dwarves and Elves, and it was that style that absolutely drew me in. It was, you know, fantasy players wearing NFL gear with spikes on. And Games Workshop has kind of developed that over the years, and now each race has got its own kind of style. The new Games Workshop Dwarves are okay. They are far more dwarfy than they are Blood Bowl-y, I think. Which is probably why I haven't massively enjoyed painting those. But these guys just absolutely reek of second edition Blood Bowl. I was so excited about the Kickstarter when it landed. And I am even happier now that I have the team. The miniatures are fantastic. So each one of these linemans, bless them, no, let's stick with this view. Each one of these linemans is individual, and this thing I absolutely love is that there is a punting dwarf. So dwarf kickers were a thing in second edition Blood Bowl. There are dwarf kicker miniatures, there are elf kicker miniatures, there are kicker. Kicker used to be a player type. Wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see that come back in at some point in Blood Bowl. Games Workshop likes going retro with some stuff. But the second edition vibe, you've got to do with the pipe, you've just got that lack of armor, you've just got that whole thing. These guys are absolutely dwarfs. They are absolutely second edition dwarfs. They've got the Warhammer Fantasy aspect down to a treat. The Slayers are awesome. They are just Marauder miniatures. Marauder / Citadel miniatures from the 90s. These guys fit in so well with them. But they've upscaled them, and they are scale-tastic with the Blood Bowl stuff. You know, they've got bigger heads than the Games Workshop things, but that's because the old miniatures had massive heads. They were basically chibi. The Death Roller here is another absolute amazing miniature that I intend to use as an ogre, basically for my Old World Alliance team, because the Death Roller itself is tough. Although with Pile Driver now, Dirty Player +2 is pretty sweet. Smash a dude and then roll over on it. Pretty cool. That's just so brutal. I can see that being great, but not for 170k. Anyway, the Death Roller miniature is just delicious. Like, the Games Workshop one is cool, and it's about this big. And the Fanath one is probably about this big, which is more appropriate. It is over there, unfortunately. I can't quite reach it. I love this team. It's just so cool. And I know it's a dwarf team, and I know that I take the mick out of dwarves, but as we saw all of this stuff coming, it was just so exciting. The star players are wicked. The team is wicked. Let's see, have a look at some of the star players you get with it. Did I get these guys? I'm not sure I got that one. This star player and this star player got those, and they are fantastic. And the little beer jugs they came with, it's just awesome. I love everything about this. It was just so second edition. It's just, there's the Iron Golem's human team that is also really reminiscent of like the early Blood Bowl stuff. But this team here, Fanath got it right with their sizes, with what was included in the team, with the individual sculpts, and with the price, because I think it was about 50 quid for the entire team when it came on Kickstarter, and I think now it's only about 50-60 quid for an entire dwarf team. So I love the Norbert team because it's got great sculpts for really great price. Fanath are kind of midway there. The sculpts are halfway between them and Punger and Gribo, and so is the price, and that's why I think Fanath just win this out with a team that is dear to my heart. Because I started with dwarves back in the day, I moved on to Skaven hard, but dwarves from second edition, dwarves from Warhammer Fantasy Battle, dwarves in fantasy were just my first army. Then I moved on to high elves, but dwarves. Oh, I've still got the very first metal miniature, which was a dwarf with a gun and a pipe, and it just, that guy was awesome. He jumped off a tower once and shot a vampire in a very exaggerated game of 3rd edition Warhammer. Not quite sure that that was illegal, but you know, it was fun. And so is this team. So if you're in the market for a dwarf team or dwarves for an OWA team, these guys plus human nobility will make a superb old world team. And I love them. I think they're great. They're great if you fancy something, painting something different, painting something classic, and everybody kind of needs a dwarf team, so that when your friend goes, well, I'm going to run Amazons, you can teach them the justice of tackle. Anyway, guys, I am going to wrap up my top 5 third-party teams. I want to know what your top teams are from third parties. But I will also put a post up about this at the weekend. Next week, we're going to be looking at the top 5 Games Workshop Blood Bowl teams. So I want you to let me know what your top Games Workshop teams are as well. And keep an eye out for a community post and post on our social media, because I want to get as many results as possible. Because I want to rank mine and I want to rank yours. Because that's how we're going to do Top 5 Friday this year, is we're going to put a post out ahead of time so that we can get your votes in, so we can talk through that as well on the videos. But for now, I will go and let you all go to Fanath and buy dwarves. See you later. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the show even further, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Or come and join us in our Patreon, link below, where you get early access to our content and monthly competitions. See you later.